I've got a piece of pipe sitting on my bench right now. Cast iron, 2 inches across, cut out of a kitchen line in a house built in 1952. I ran it through the saw, lengthwise, so you can see straight into it. And the inside of that pipe looks like the stump of a tree. Rings. Layer on layer of hardened brown crust, closing in from the wall. And the channel left in the middle of it you could maybe fit a pencil through. That pipe left the foundry 2 full inches wide open. The homeowner was standing right next to me when I pulled it out. He looked at the thing and he said, "But I never pour grease down that drain." He wasn't lying to me. I believe him completely. That man never poured grease down that sink in 18 years of living there, and he still ended up with a grease-choked line. That's the piece almost nobody understands, and I'm going to come back to it at the very end of this video, because here's what was under that man's sink the whole time. About 18 inches from where I was standing, in the cabinet, sat the 2 cheapest bottles in his entire house. 2 things that would have kept that pipe wide open. He'd owned both of them for 18 years. He just never knew what they were for. We'll get to those too. First, I want to walk you through the 7 things that build that crust, and exactly what each one physically does once it's past the drain opening, because 6 of the 7 are in your kitchen right now. Before the list, let me put dollars on this because that's the only way any of it means anything. A plumber coming out to clear 1 clog fixture in the 2026 runs about $100 to $275 for a straightforward job. And across all drain calls, the national average sits right around $243. That's the cheap version, the one where you caught it in time. The expensive version is a line that's already coated, because when a plumber snakes a drain, what he's doing is feeding a steel cable down the pipe and punching a hole through the blockage. Water flows again, you're happy, he leaves. But the crust on the wall is still there, so it closes back up. I watched exactly that happen to a woman who paid $150 3 separate times in 8 months for the same kitchen drain. $450 gone, and her pipe was in worse shape at the end than at the start. On the 4th call, somebody finally put a camera down there and found 15 feet of hardened grease coating the walls. The fix at that point was jetting, which means high-pressure water scouring the pipe wall clean instead of just poking through the middle. That job was $650. Jetting a kitchen or bathroom line generally runs $250 to $500. Get out to the main line, the big pipe that carries everything from your house to the street, and you're looking at $600 to $1,500, sometimes more if there's no easy access. So keep that spread in your head as we go. Free, if you never let it build. A couple hundred if you catch it early. Several hundred to a couple thousand if you let it become a structure. Number 1, grease, bacon fat, and cooking oil. The king of the whole list, and the one everything else is built on top of. When that grease is in the pan at 300 degrees, it pours like water. Feels harmless. But your drain pipe is not 300 degrees. Your drain pipe, especially the run that goes through a crawl space or an outside wall, might be 60. And the second that fat hits cold metal, it does exactly what candle wax does when it drips onto the holder. It stops being a liquid and it sets hard, right on the wall. That layer isn't a clog yet. It's an anchor. Sticky, rough, and every single thing that comes down after it has something to grab onto. That's how you get the tree rings. And I need to kill the hot water myth right here, because it's the most common thing people tell me. Running hot water behind the grease does not get rid of the grease. All it does is keep it liquid a little longer so it travels further before it sets. You didn't solve anything. You moved the problem 20 feet down the line into a section you can't reach and can't see. So with grease, the rule is dead simple. Zero down the drain, including the thin film left in the pan after you think you got it all. Pour it into a jar or an old can, let it go solid, and throw the whole thing in the trash. That 2-second habit beats every product on the drain cleaner shelf. Number 2, coffee grounds. If you made me name the one thing I pull out of more kitchen traps than anything else in this trade, it's wet coffee grounds. Quick definition, because I'll use the word a lot. The trap is that U-shaped bend of pipe directly under your sink. It holds a little standing water on purpose, and that water is a seal that keeps sewer gas from coming up into your kitchen. Useful piece of plumbing. Also a perfect settling basin. Grounds do not dissolve, ever. Not in cold water, not in hot, not in a week of sitting. They're dense, gritty little particles, so they sink. And in the still water of that trap, they pack down into a sediment dam. On its own, that dam is soft, and you might get away with it. Combine it with the grease layer from number 1, and you get something with the texture of wet cement. That's the classic call. Grounds plus grease, and the homeowner's stunned, because they'd swear they never put anything bad down there. Grounds go in the trash, or better, in the garden. They're good for compost and terrible for a trap. Number 3, rice and pasta. These two get a pass from almost everybody because they're soft and they're small, and they look like nothing going down. Here's what they actually do. Rice and pasta are dried starch, and dried starch is engineered to absorb water. That's the whole point of it. So a few grains that seem like nothing sitting in the strainer will take on water in that trap and swell to 2 or 3 times their original size. And while they swell, they release starch into the water, and starch in water is glue. That's not a metaphor. That's what wallpaper paste used to be made of. So now the rice isn't just sitting there taking up space. It's binding the coffee grounds together and pasting the whole mess to the grease layer on the wall. Somebody's thinking, but I've got a garbage disposal. Doesn't matter. A disposal grinds things smaller. It does not make starch stop being starch. And everything it produces still travels through that same 2-inch pipe. Smaller particles pack tighter, so in some cases the disposal makes it worse. Scrape it in the trash. Takes 4 seconds. Now, before I get into the back half of this list, one quick thing. Everything I'm walking you through here comes out of a book I put together called 100 Old House Fixes That Save You Thousands. A big chunk of it is about knowing when a cheap patch is actually a real fix. And it gives you the specific questions to ask a contractor, so the conversation goes your way instead of his. The link's in the description, and there's a code on screen you can scan if that's easier. All right, back to the list. And the next 4 are where it stops being food and starts being construction material. Number 4, flour. This one people laugh at until they see it. Flour plus water makes paste. You've known that since you were a kid, making things stick to construction paper. And when you rinse a mixing bowl or dump the dredging tray from breading chicken, that flour meets the standing water in the trap and does the exact thing it's always done. It becomes paste and it lines the pipe. Then it dries into a shell right at the waterline, and the next round has a rough surface to grab. I've cut open traps where that flour crust had to come off with a screwdriver. Wipe the bowl with a paper towel first, then wash it. Number 5, eggshells. There are 2 separate problems in one shell, and both of them are bad. The shell itself is grit. It doesn't dissolve, it just breaks into sharp little chips. And those chips embed into the grease film on the pipe wall, like sand thrown into wet paint. Now the wall isn't smooth anymore. Now it catches everything. The second problem is that thin, stringy membrane on the inside of the shell. If you've got a disposal, that membrane wraps around the shredder ring and the underside of the blades and just stays there, holding food and going rancid. That's where a lot of mystery kitchen smells come from. And somebody's about to type that eggshells sharpen disposal blades. Disposal blades aren't blades. They're blunt impellers that fling food against a grinding ring. So there's nothing on there to sharpen. That one's been going around 40 years, and it's never been true. Number 6, paint, grout, plaster, and joint compound. Or more accurately, the rinse water from any of them. Take this one most seriously because everything else on the list builds up over years. This one can ruin a line in a single afternoon. All 4 products are designed to start as a liquid and set into a solid. And nothing about being inside your pipe stops that chemistry. Grout sets underwater on purpose. So when you rinse a joint compound bucket or a grout float in the utility sink, you're pouring a material into your trap whose entire job is to become rock. And it will do that job perfectly. That doesn't snake out. There's nothing soft to punch through. Depending on where it sets, you're either jetting it or you're cutting the pipe out and replacing that section. Rinse those buckets outside into a gravel bed or a bucket you let evaporate and take leftover paint to your county hazardous waste drop-off. Most counties run those free, and it takes 1 Saturday morning a year. Number 7, clumping kitty litter. And this is the one that makes plumbers wince, including the ones labeled flushable. Clumping litter is mostly sodium bentonite, which is a clay that's specifically engineered to absorb moisture and lock into a solid mass. That's the entire selling point on the bag. It's the reason you can scoop it. And it does not care whether the moisture is in a litter box or in your drain line. Bentonite can swell to many times its dry volume. And when it does, it forms a waterproof plug that guys in my trade call bio-cement. I've seen a case where a homeowner tried to fix a litter clog with hot water, and all that did was make the clumping agent bloom and set harder. Clearing one of those typically runs $250 to $600, and if it makes it out to the main and sits there, you're into serious money. Flushable on the bag is a marketing word. It is not a plumbing word. Bag it and bin it. Now, that's the 7, but a few others deserve a mention on the way past because I pull them out constantly. Produce stickers, the little oval on your apple, which is vinyl with adhesive on it and never breaks down. Paper towels built to hold together when wet, unlike toilet paper, which is built to fall apart. Anything sold as a flushable wipe, which is the biggest single cause of the grease and fiber masses cities are pulling out of sewers now. Motor oil, which coats worse than cooking fat and is illegal to drain in most places. And old medications, which your pharmacy will take back for nothing. All right? That's everything to keep out. Now, the other half, and this is where you actually get your money back. 2 things to pour down your drains, starting today. Together, they cost under $5. And between them, they handle the 2 ways a pipe closes up. The first one is a squirt of dish soap chased by 60 seconds of the hottest water your tap will give you. Once a week, every drain that sees food. Dish soap is a degreaser. That's the one thing it's built to do. It breaks fat into small droplets that water can carry instead of letting it sit and set on the wall. So what you're doing is stripping the anchor layer off before it ever gets a chance to harden and collect anything. Run it a full minute, and if you're patient, 2 or 3. The soap needs contact time to work. Now, listen close, because there's a version of this that costs you money. Hottest tap water, not boiling water off the stove. Your water heater puts out somewhere around 120 to 140 degrees, which is plenty hot to move softened fat along, and it's safe. Water off a rolling boil is 212 degrees. PVC, that white plastic pipe under most sinks, starts softening well before that, and the glue holding those joints together was never rated for it. Dump boiling water into a slow drain, and it sits there against one spot until it cools, which is the worst possible case. And it's not just the pipe. Porcelain, which is your sink basin and your toilet bowl, is brittle against sudden temperature change. That's called thermal shock, and is how you crack a bowl. In a toilet, boiling water can also soften the wax ring at the base, and now you've got sewage seeping into the floor. That's a $200 problem minimum, and it started with a free pot of water. Hot tap, every time. There is no upside to the stove. The second thing is a cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide, poured down each drain at night right before bed. 3% is the standard brown drugstore bottle, the one you've had in the medicine cabinet since forever. $1 or $2. That's the whole cost. What it does is different from the soap, and that's why you want both. Soap handles grease. Peroxide handles the living layer. Because inside every drain in your house, there's a film of bacteria and organic slime coating the walls. And that's what most drain smells actually are. That's the pink or black gunk you see around a shower drain. Peroxide is an oxidizer, meaning it attacks that organic material chemically and breaks it apart, and then it turns into plain water and oxygen. That's why it foams. It's also non-corrosive at that strength, which matters a lot if you've got old cast iron or old galvanized pipe, because the caustic drain cleaners on the store shelf absolutely do eat those. Pour a cup, walk away, go to bed. Overnight, it has hours of contact time with nothing running through and diluting it. In the morning, run water. 2 hard rules on this one, and they are not negotiable. Never pour peroxide into a drain that has vinegar in it. Peroxide and vinegar together make peracetic acid, which is a corrosive irritant to your skin, your eyes, and your lungs. And doing that inside a closed trap means it's off-gassing in a confined space. Every eco-cleaning list that tells you to combine them is wrong. And never put peroxide anywhere near bleach, or into a drain you just poured a commercial cleaner down. If you use a store product, Flush that drain thoroughly with water first and wait. Mixing chemistry you can't see in a pipe you can't see into is how people end up at urgent care. Once a week on the soap flush, once or twice a month on the peroxide. That's the whole routine. Now, let me hit the questions I know are coming. If your drain is already slow, this routine helps, but it won't open a real blockage. Soap and peroxide are maintenance, not demolition. Pull the trap or plunge it or get it snaked once, get back to a clean pipe, then start the routine so you never pay for that again. If the smell keeps coming back after peroxide, the smell probably isn't in the drain. Check whether the trap has dried out, which happens in guest bathrooms and floor drains nobody uses. A dry trap means sewer gas comes straight up. Pour a quart of water down any drain you haven't used in a month and see if the smell stops. If a whole area of the house smells like sewage and you can't find it, stop and call somebody. Sewer gas is not something to experiment with. If you have a disposal, all of this still applies word for word. A disposal is a grinder, not a garbage can, and it feeds the same pipe. If you're on a septic system, the soap flush is fine in these amounts. Go lighter on the peroxide, once a month at most, because you don't want to knock down the bacteria in the tank that does the actual work. And if you've already poured something on this list down there, and I promise you most of you have, don't panic. Nothing on that list ruins a pipe in one go except the masonry products. Run hot tap water and dish soap for a couple of minutes right now, then start the weekly habit. Buildup took years to get there. You got time. All right? The pipe on my bench. That man never poured grease down his sink, and he was telling me the truth. So where did 15 years of grease come from? It came off his dishes. Every plate going into that sink with a film of butter on it. Every pan he wiped out, but not all the way. Every rinse of a bowl that had cheese, dressing, sauce, or oil in it. Not one of those is pouring grease down the drain. Every one of them is putting fat into that pipe. Nobody sees it because it goes down in a soapy stream of dishwater that looks perfectly clean. But dish soap only holds fat suspended while there's enough soap and enough motion. 20 feet down the line, in cold pipe in still water, that fat comes out of suspension and it sets. Same as if he poured it out of the pan. That's why the weekly soap flush is the one habit I'd keep if you made me pick only one. It's not there for the grease you pour. It's there for the grease you never knew you were sending down. So he wasn't wrong about what he did. He was wrong about what counted. If this was useful to you, the full book is 100 Old House Fixes That Save You. Thousands. And the link is in the description below. Inside it, you'll find the room-by-room checklists I use and a seasonal calendar so you catch a small leak in a cabinet or a ceiling while it's still a small leak before it's floors and drywall. And if you want more of this, subscribe to Roger the Pipe Guy. That's what this channel does, old house fixes that keep the money in your pocket instead of somebody's van. Go pour some soap down your sink. I'll see you next time.